I played the Nintendo Switch 2. And this is a really unexpected video for me because I didn't think I was getting into that event. And I only knew that I was on the day of. So, thank you, Nintendo waitlist. But yeah, I played the Switch 2, and I have some impressions and some thoughts. I'll start by saying, drop the price. Of course. I'm also recording this like a day after Nintendo said they were going to delay the pre-orders because of the tariff stuff. So I have no idea what's going on. I don't think any of us really do. For those that said that, you know, the tariffs were the reason the price was high in the first place, I don't know. I just don't know. And maybe we'll see it go up another $100. That would be so cool. But yes, I've really talked about the price way too much. So this is just me talking about my experiences with the games and the system. So it started with Mario Kart, and when you walk in, you have a chance to, you know, take a look at some stuff. So for example, they show you the accessories, they show you the controller, the Pro Controller, the case. You know, you have a chance to take some photos and look around. I don't know why, I have a new phone, I don't know why my photos came out like this, but anyway. The Pro Controller, which by the way was very, very good. The material's nice, it's just a little bit bigger, it's a little more comfortable, I feel. And it just feels like a sturdy controller. The D-pad feels better, but otherwise it's more or less the same. So apparently you can use your Switch 1 Pro Controller with the Switch 2, so it might not be worth just getting a C button. However, I enjoyed using it, and I'll tell you about that. So it starts with Mario Kart. You get in there and you play Mario Kart for a little bit, and what they do is they start you off in pairs of 2. You verse each other, and they did like 50cc, so it's very, very basic. And then, like later on, as you're playing more Mario Kart, you get to do free roam, and then you do knockout tour. So let me just start by saying Mario Kart is really, really fun. The 50cc is, you know, that's what I was playing until knockout tour. So it's a little slow. I'm not crazy about the, you know, the fact that they had mainly just 50cc. But it felt good. The physics of getting hit with like a shell or like crashing into a car, it doesn't mean that you just stop dead in your tracks. So that's good. Visuals are good. The whole thing just feels like a very well-polished, complete package, which is, I guess, what we were expecting. You know, again, yes, $80 is a lot, but also, you know, getting the bundle with the Switch 2, that probably, for me, is like, that's the one I'm gonna get, even if it's just digital. I'm excited for Mario Kart. I wasn't sure if Mario Kart could actually end up being something that I would really want to get as a system launch title. And you know what? It's pretty fucking cool. The open world stuff, I still hope there's more collectibles and things to do in the open world, but from what I saw, because they said this demo was a specific build for this. So, you know, not everything's there, but the world looked really good. The courses were a lot of fun. They had a lot of interesting things. You can grind on the rails like Tonky Honk, and that feels really good. The physics of the racing are probably the best they've ever been. I got to play as a cow. There's some characters that are not in the game. Like, there's a lot of weird, like, characters, but compared to Mario Kart 8, like, the Koopa kids aren't there, so it's a lot of, like, you know, different costumes and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the first thing you do is you play with the Joy-Con in the connector, and that was better than the original one by a pretty decent amount. Like, the Switch 1 connector to turn it into the dog ear controller, I don't really care for. This felt a lot better. And the Joy-Con feels sturdy. The sticks feel sturdy. I think it's an improvement. It should be for the price. Visuals are really nice. The actual game itself, there's, you know, in some of the bigger open world areas, there's some like lack of detail, like the cow textures. The animations are incredible. But yeah, I mean, visually this thing looks somewhere between a PS4 and a PS5. And I believe, and I asked a couple people if any of this was running DLSS, and it doesn't look like any of the stuff at this place was running DLSS. Which, by the way, that's something NVIDIA apparently confirmed. So I do wonder if that will, you know, have a mode for some games like Cyberpunk, for example, just to boost the frame rates. But yeah, Mario Kart was good. I think the Knockout Tour was really, really fun. You basically do a whole... Seamless, by the way. Like, all the tracks just go into each other. It's like a good 15-20 minute race, and you just keep going. And it actually really impressed me. I made 3rd place, by the way. I almost got 2nd, but yeah, top 4, by the time you get to the last part of the knockout race, you know, it goes from like 24 players down to 4. So I got 3rd place, and I felt like a gamer. It was really, really fun, and it was extremely tense. Like, I was actually getting really into it, and it was kind of fun. Whenever you throw a blue shell, everyone in the room, like at the stations, would also like yell or like make a noise and be like, "Ah!" The event itself, by the way, I'm really grateful and lucky I got to go to this thing. It's really cool. The event itself was pretty cool. They would clap for you when you went into an area and like cheer. And at one point when I was leaving, they were cheering them, and I looked at them. I stopped dead in my tracks. I'm like, come on, what did I do to deserve that? And the security people were laughing. So I at least got a laugh. But yeah, no, I mean, in terms of the controller, good. The Joy-Con feel better. Okay, good. I got to do the magnetic grip thing. It's definitely better. It actually is very sturdy, and it makes a lot of sense. I got to play handheld Mario Kart. The screen looks really nice. I know people were complaining about the OLED. I couldn't really see. I mean, I know the black pixels are, or the lack of pixel, whatever, is not the same as OLED, but the screen was surprisingly vibrant. The pixel density is apparently higher. I really don't, you know, I guess I could kind of tell, but I just thought, wow, this game, especially Mario Kart, looks really good on the screen. The console, I can't tell if it's a little heavier. I think it might be, but it's about the same size, and it just felt like a sturdier, better version of the Switch. You know, like 8 years of iteration or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it is a good system. The peripherals, everything is like, it feels good. You know, it's almost impossible to talk about this without the price, because that's going to be the thing most people are concerned about, myself included. And I do think, you know, vote with your wallet however you want. But in terms of the Switch 2 itself, the hardware seems pretty damn good. So it was nice to get a close-up, you know, look at it. Mario Kart was awesome. Playing it made me realize, yes, this is quite good. This is something that I do want to play day one. Okay, then you go into another room. It's a bigger room, and in this room, let's see. When you go upstairs, after a little while, that's the downstairs area. See, they cheer when you walk in there, but you get to play a bunch of, and sorry, the footage isn't amazing. Actually, I think HDR is on, full dynamic range. You get to play up to 6 things. You actually get to choose from all of these things. You get to choose which 6 you want to play. They mark it off on your card, and then you go play Donkey Kong, and that's the experience, right? So I actually played Wheels, and I had some, you know, concerns about this. Like, am I going to want to play this game for more than 10 minutes? And the answer is no. But I'm going to be real. The mouse controls, way more accurate than I expected. Like, actually, surprisingly good. There were like 2 moments that, you know, I was doing the dual mouse controls with the game, and it got like funky, but it was like kind of small. and it wasn't anything too bad. It was just something that was like, oh, that's weird. But for the 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes that I played and we did a match, I was surprised that the gimmick actually worked. My concern was that my arm's going to get exhausted when I play this game. Not really exhausted, but it is, you know, it's another one of those things like, if you're into motion controls, you might enjoy this for a little bit. But, you know, I'm not into motion, I'm not into motion controls as much. And I'll talk more about the mouse when I talk about Metroid. But for this, it works. It's an interesting thing. It's surprisingly immersive. I don't want to play that game. I'm not going to purchase this game. You know what? This should be a pack-in title. Same for the Nintendo Museum. That would get people to probably be more excited about the system and say, oh, okay, I get some games. This game is fun for maybe, you know, for me, like 15, 20 minutes. And that's all I need. It's very basic. It's very bland. It's just kind of like you know, move your character with the mice, and then you throw the ball by doing a gesture with your hand. And it got kind of tense at the end, like, you know, it was a close match, but it wasn't, you know, again, minimal substance. So I think Nintendo has on their hands here a good tech demo. And if they end up charging full price, or even like $30 for that game, that's going to be a huge misstep, in my opinion. All right, so I played that just to see what the thing was all about. I played Kirby in the Forgotten Land because a lot of the other demo stations were pretty tied up. But I played this, the new mode. Sorry, everything's like all blown out. I'm just using my phone camera, and I don't, you know, it's a new camera, or a new phone, so I don't know if I have to change some settings. But the GameCube stuff definitely looked crisp. Everything looked like sharp, resolution-wise. I mean, it's what you'd expect. If you've played on Dolphin, then you know what to expect here. It's just higher resolution. Wind Waker looked really nice. F-Zero was cool, obviously, to look at. They just had those 4 titles, Soul Calibur. Definitely great games. I don't know if that alone is going to be a reason to pick up and the Switch 2 and do the subscription. But for, you know, GameCube games that now have online multiplayer and portable, I mean, seeing them up close, it was what I expected. They're good. Kirby in the Forgotten Land, the new DLC for Switch 2. I played a little bit of it. Obviously, the frame rates and the visuals are really nice. Now, that's not really enough for me to go back to the game, but the new story mode, it's more of the same. You get a new power-up. You could spring around and stomp on enemies. It did remind me how much that game is fun, but it was nothing crazy. Metroid was really good. And you can't look, like, from here, this footage is crap. Right? And one of the things Nintendo does with their footage is they want you to, you know, make sure that the, when you're capturing footage, that it is, that you have someone in the shot, or you're not fully zoomed in. And I think what they don't want is you to fully zoom in with your phone, and people think that's what the game looks like. So fair enough. So I kept zoomed out for some of this. The game was actually really good. I think visually it looks like a Switch 2 game almost. So the new textures, you know, the up-res, the resolution, the frame rates. I played in 1080p, 120 FPS, and I can't really tell the difference between a smooth 60 and a 120. But I think it depends on the refresh rate, depends on the division of the frames or some shit. I don't know. It looked really smooth. The game itself it's just the intro. It's kind of like the Freighter. As a Metroid fan, I'm very pleased. Again, they're showing so little of this game. They're not really showing any of the later power-ups. We know their psychic abilities to move a stone and open a door in some of the least exciting trailers that could possibly be. But the intro is very action-packed. It's a tutorial intro. You kill some space pirates, you fight a boss, it teaches you some stuff. Really nice visuals, really nice sound. The thing is, the way I played this was not with a Pro Controller, which, the Pro Controller, that I did that with Donkey Kong. But with this, it was the two Joy-Con disconnected, and the reason they did that was they want you to try the mouse controls. The way it works is you can use the two Joy-Con disconnected and play as normal, and if you want, you can just use the mouse, and it seamlessly works. So, I was thinking, okay, I'll try the mouse for a minute, and that'll be it. I'll just use the mouse. It can't be that comfortable, it can't be that good. I used the mouse for 80% of the demo. The gyro is cool for the, aiming, if you need that. The controls are good. They're very, modern Metroid Prime. You can choose to lock on loosely. You still have to aim. Aiming seems to be much more important, kind of like in Prime 3, than in Prime 1. But the mouse just made things actually even better. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. The mouse itself, when I was playing that Wheels game, Dragon Drive, it, like I said, there were like 2 occasions, but you're going mental with big movements on that game. Using it for Prime, it just felt like I was playing a PC game. I was actually surprised at how comfortable it was. Like, no, it's not the same as holding a computer mouse, but not bad either. Like, the button is designed in a way that you can use it pretty comfortably. It's accurate, it's smooth, and I kind of found myself just wanting to use the mouse to play the game. So I did. Good demo. A couple things I noticed. Obviously, visuals and sound, like I said, were great. I'm surprised that this is probably the second best looking Switch 2 title. Like, Mario Kart and this are like kind of maybe just about tied. Donkey Kong looks good in certain areas, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But gameplay is really good. If you know the Prime series, this is more of that, but even maybe better. The thing I liked about it was everything feels more tuned and more, like, designed for the Switch. Like, it just feels like the best of Prime 1 remake, but even more thought out. There's not really a lot of new functions. Like, it's still morph ball, shoot, charge beam, missile. Very basic. But, it's a good demo. It's a cool area. It's, like, got a cool vibe to it. The other thing is you shoot slower. So in Prime 1, you could actually, like, you could just mash the button and shoot your power beam a fuckload. In this, it's not the same. So you can press it, you have there's like, the shots are a lot slower. It kind of reminds me more of Super Metroid in that sense. And if you hold the button, you shoot off a few shots, then you start charging. So your finger doesn't get fatigued. So I think they're designing the enemies and the bosses around that more than just, like, pressing the button as fast as you can. The boss was really, really good. It was basically a tutorial boss. Teaches you how to double jump, teaches you how to morph ball, teaches you how to aim. That's the big one, was the precise aiming, shooting missiles at the right spots. And it was just like, this is what I want. This is exactly what I wanted for years. It's been like 19 years since Metroid Prime 3, and we're back. Honestly, I'm really, really happy with this demo. I was worried, like, oh, is it going to be too action-oriented? But that's the thing. Instead of that, you get a really good intro that's like the space station in Metroid Prime Orpheon, but it also reminds me of Prime 3. Now, I'm worried about some other stuff, too. Like, the Prime series, I don't need too much story. I don't need focus on the Federation soldiers too much. And I know, like, Samus is now the chosen one. So I'm a little bit iffy on that. But I'm willing to give Retro the benefit of the doubt, because they really did a great job with the vibe, the tone, the music, the controls, the graphics, the sound. Everything just feels right. So I think they did it. I'm willing to wait and see what kind of future stuff is ahead for Metroid Prime. Because, you know, for Prime 4, I feel like people are talking about it a little less than Mario Kart and Donkey Kong. And yet, that was maybe my favorite demo I played. Weirdly. So, yeah, as a Metroid Prime fanatic, I was very happy. You can see Soul Calibur 2, which, again, like I said, the game still looks awesome. And it is one of the best games on the GameCube. I love it. Okay, next I played Cyberpunk. And again, I'm just, you know, filming other people playing the game. Here's the thing about Cyberpunk. It's a 7-week-old build. There were some frame stuff. It was a little framey. And I don't know if you can see it here. You really can't. When I was playing it, it felt like I was surprised that this thing was working on the Switch 2. The people from CD Projekt Red were actually there, and they were kind of like watching and checking stuff out. And, you know, I hadn't played Cyberpunk with a controller ever, so I was fumbling a bit, but I figured it out. And it put you in the heart of Dogtown, so like the DLC area. And there were moments where I was just staring at the buildings and looking at the scenery, and I was like, holy shit, this game looks good. And I had played it already. I finished it. For a 7-week build, which means they worked on it, from what I understood and got clarity on, they worked on it for 7 weeks to show it for this. I was actually blown away. The frame rates are choppy. I hope they have a DLSS mode, which I know there's some people that aren't into DLSS. I get it. But for a thing like this, to smooth everything out, it would make a big difference. And I hope some of that additional time that they have goes into just improving the performance. That's really it. I mean, you can see, again, it doesn't look too bad. It's like, when I was playing it, it was like 25 to 35 or 40. So, I mean, depending on what you're doing, it looked like the frames were getting better. Like, when I was doing a motorcycle, it was a little bit better. Again, it's cool that this thing runs portably on a Switch. From what I understand, it's more powerful than a Steam Deck. And please, I'm not the best when it comes to hardware specs. I know a little bit. I don't know if that's true. But I'm actually very... like I said, for 7 weeks, I'm impressed. They have time to mess around with that even more. The Witcher 3 on the Switch was kind of a miracle port, so I feel like I have faith that CD Projekt Red could improve this even further and optimize it even further for the Switch 2. Because, you know, it's an asset to have a game like this running well and showing people like this can be done. So, yeah, I mean, not bad. Not bad, but again, I played the game. I'm not going to play it again on the Switch 2. That's just my experience. I just wanted to see what the hardware would look like pushed to the limit, and it kind of handled it surprisingly well. So, definitely want to see where that ends up. They had Yakuza. As you can see here, my footage of it is pretty much terrible. They had the Mario Party stuff, which I didn't play, because I just did not want to do that. But it seemed like people were having fun. They had the GPS navigation. I looked at this off screen. I didn't play it. And again, my footage is terrible, so don't, you know. Oh, they're screaming Kong. You would think Kong was running for Congress. Now, I forgot to film Donkey Kong. But it kind of doesn't matter if you think about it, because honestly, any of my footage would end up being kind of, you know, it would be kind of bad anyway compared to what you've been seeing online, like at the Treehouse. So, after you're done playing your 6 games, or your time is, you know, for your group is called, which I still had like another half hour I could have played games for. But I was like, I'm good. I've seen everything. The only stuff I didn't really do was like games I'd played already, or the GameCube titles, which I waited for the GameCube titles, but at a certain point I'm like, man, I'm not gonna just sit here and play F-Zero. I could for fun, but I'm just watching people play, and I was good with that. I didn't play the Nintendo Museum thing, or whatever that is, the as I call it, the Switch 2 instruction game, because believe it or not, that one actually had it was always packed. There was never a spot to play it. But it looked like it should have been free. It just looked like it should have been free. So I don't really know what else to say about that other than, there's a couple little mini games and stuff to show off the features. You've seen it in the trailers. You've seen it at the treehouse. There's not much more I can say. I don't have any additional information. However, the Switch 2 mouse mode impressed me so much that I actually probably would have enjoyed checking out a couple of those demos, but I just didn't have the desire to wait in line for it. So after all that, and they had Hades 2 as well, and some other, like Street Fighter. They had a couple things on display. And again, all of it looked like games. They looked good. Last thing, though, was Donkey Kong. And Donkey Kong was the thing that you do. Like, there's a lot of Donkey Kong setup. Dozens. So you go in, you get 20 minutes. I think I played about 18 minutes or so. And then I kind of reached my amount of progress. It is Donkey Kong Odyssey of the Wild, but more focused than Breath of the Wild. The only reason I say that is because you can climb, and because when you're in these big sandbox areas, you can just do whatever you want. More Mario Odyssey than Zelda, obviously. Use the Pro Controller for it. It was really good. I'm surprised at how much... Again, the Pro Controller just felt really good. I instantly picked it up. The person, because every person playing the games had like their own, guide. Like it was one Nintendo employee per two people. And what ended up happening with me was my lady was like, "Oh, you know what you're doing. I'm probably not going to have to do much." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I got this." But I was making jokes and stuff, and I just really instantly picked it up. It's very intuitive. You have, you jump with the A button, you punch with the Y button, you punch up with the X button, that's the top button, you punch down with the B button. So the button layout just makes sense. You use ZR, or the R button, I guess. What would that be? I guess that's ZR. You use that to pick up a ground chunk, and if you hold it, you can throw it. So everything felt very, very natural. Everything felt like control-wise really, really tuned well. This is the best Donkey Kong has felt in a 3D environment. I genuinely couldn't believe how cool everything ended up. Oh, arms, remember that? I really couldn't believe how easy I picked everything up, and how immediately everything made sense. But yeah, you start and you just break shit, and then you grab a golden banana. He goes, "Oh, banana." You do that a little bit more. You talk to some monkeys. They give you some basic little things to do, and some little puzzles that you can solve to get some more bananas or some gold, whatever. And then after the cutscene, it puts you in an outdoor open world-ish section. I say open world-ish. It's literally because you can go anywhere and do whatever you want. And you can break everything. And the breaking stuff shit is really fun. I actually really enjoyed it. I knew I was going to enjoy this game as soon as I saw it. Playing it made me like it even more. Like, it's actually a cool evolution of the Donkey Kong kind of Mario 3D shit. So, I loved it. Like I said, you climb everywhere just about. There's restrictions, there's some little areas, there's some ground you can't break. But, a lot of it is just do whatever you want, figure shit out however you want. There's like a floating ship, like a boat, right? And I just threw stuff at it until it broke completely. And then I grabbed the stuff on the ground. You could also jump over there. I think you can even ride a water spout up to it. So there's that. There's a lot of little secret areas. I found several. So the demo kind of ends and brings you back to the beginning when you go to the next sub-layer. But I ended up just kind of exploring the whole thing, and I found a couple little hidden areas. It's very addictive to just go and find shit. And combat's good. You could literally grab something from the ground and just beat the shit out of enemies with it. I mean, if you've seen the videos, you know what to expect. But what I'll say is, having played it, the controls are good. The gameplay loop is fun and rewarding. Breaking through stuff is good. Kong's animations are amazing. The sound effects are really good too. They're really effective. Some of the visuals left a little bit to be desired. Because what happened was, when I got to that outside area, so when you're down in the mine and it's like a little darker and there's moody like kind of lighting, it looked really good. There's some low res textures on the rocks, like ish. And then there's also some semi lower poly destruction. I mean, when the whole world is destructible just about, I can see why they kept that low. But you notice it. It didn't detract from my enjoyment of the game. When I got to the outside area, the little open world segment, whatever you want to call it, that got a little rough. Mostly good, but I would see the frames drop by 5, by 8 sometimes, something like that. You know, just briefly, but like when you open the map, for example, you see it there. As you're just kind of like in a busy area. I think it maybe dropped twice, but it was still something I couldn't help but notice. And the colors outside are so like just blasted by the sun. It's so like incredibly bright that I think some of the charm of those mine areas, the darker areas, is kind of lost. It's vibrant, looks good. People saying this is the Mario Odyssey team. It looks exactly like that. So I can see why they say that, because it does look like that. I do wonder if there's a way they can optimize it a little bit further before release. They have a couple months. And, you know, when you just kind of look at it in a screenshot, the outdoor area, I think some people are going to say, that looks good. And some are just going to be like, eh. But for me, it was more about, like, seeing it in motion. Any of those little shortcomings visually didn't really matter, because the game felt like something new. It felt fun. It felt like a good mix of what Nintendo does best. I'm glad Donkey Kong is back. I saw Cranky Kong. I saw some of the animal buddies. So they're still using some of Rare's designs. Listen, I get it. If you grew up with Rare Donkey Kong and you like that gormless motherfucker, I love him too. You know, I do. He was my Donkey Kong growing up, and I still love that design that Kevin Bayliss did. However, when you play this game for a little bit, you appreciate the animations. You appreciate he's crazy. He's silly and he's crazy. It's one of the most expressive platformers visually, like from an animation standpoint, that I've maybe ever seen. So, credit where credit's due. The design works for that. And if you're worried about him having pants, don't worry, he loses the shorts. He loses them trousers, and he is free donging, and it's great. So, I would recommend this game. I think it's good. I'm excited for it. Actually, really excited for it. This is one of those games that I know I'm just going to get lost in. And it seems like the open world stuff is just big enough that as you're going through, you have all these little challenges, all these little areas, all these little puzzles, lots of secrets to find. I'm not sure about upgrades. There is a currency, so I wonder about that. But several currencies, in fact. So maybe. That would be fun, by the way. I can see this game being deeper than any of us expect. It's a mining joke. But it is probably the most fun I had. Whereas Mario Kart, I knew I was going to have a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it for sure. But playing this was just like... I was like, okay, yep, I'm in. Really, really good launch title that's not a launch. I think it's like a month after, so... So yeah, that was my experience. I felt very happy to be there. People recognize me. Here's a funny little aside. Someone recognized me and was like, hey, Vinny, hey, this is going to sound kind of weird, but I have a friend who said he almost hit you with his car. I was like, okay, well, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, it was on Staten Island. And I checked your stream that same day, and apparently you even talked about it. So that was a weird moment. But yeah, I mean, overall, it was a good event. There's definitely a little bit of an elephant in the room with, again, them announcing no pre-orders now because we don't know what's happening. And of course, the amount of people who were like upset with the price. During the treehouse, the whole chat was filled with drop the price. I know I can't talk about the Switch 2 without the price. And I know people are going to judge me for getting this thing. Again, you know, my job is to stream. People like watching me play Nintendo stuff. I like playing Nintendo stuff. I'm fortunate enough I can afford this stuff. So you will see me play Switch 2. Unless there's any global catastrophes or some awful thing like that. So, yeah, I'll be playing it. No, I'm not happy about the peripherals. I think $450 for the console itself almost kind of makes sense to a degree, based on the power of the system, based on the features. But then the peripherals, you add those up, and you add the prices of the games from... And again, we can talk about how much games cost in the 90s. I've done it already several times. Adjusted for inflation, the $80 games I was buying in 1994 would be like $160 now. So, yes, there's some crazy stuff like that you could talk about. But right now, people are struggling. Right now, people are a little bit scared. And right now, it's kind of hard to afford a lot of shit. So when you have a system like this, it feels tone deaf. And then it's the day before they announce it. They're like, pre-orders. They're like, no pre-orders. We might have to increase the price. So yeah, it sucks. I'm with you. And again, success Nintendo versus struggle Nintendo. Struggle Nintendo seems to be better for their consumers. If you've clicked off by now, you won't know I'm saying this, but some people are probably like, all right, I'm good. I'm done. But if you want my assessment, it is a good system. It's made very high quality. I don't know if it's going to be worth it for everyone. It might not be worth it on launch. I would say wait, but Nintendo barely drops the price of anything, so that kind of sucks. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what electronics are going to cost a couple months from now, next year. It's feels like things are going to get more expensive. I just don't know. So I hope people can enjoy their Nintendo games and still afford their Sega games. My God, this playlist is like almost all Sonic music. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. I think one other thing I'll say is, even though I was walking around the event, and it was a big event, and I played the big three games. Played Metroid, Mario Kart, Donkey Kong. Then there was a whole subsection of games where I'm just like, I feel like having one more big title would have been very advantageous for Nintendo, as opposed to tech demos that are being sold. So I can't help but feel like it's a little light if they had one more big title that they could say, and this game is coming out November 2025. That would be a little bit better of a prospect. Obviously, there's going to be more titles. Obviously, the Switch 2 is going to have more games. We don't know about a Smash Brothers. I mean, Kirby Air Ride is a big title for some people. It wasn't at the event. We've only seen a trailer. So that could be next year. We don't know. Sakurai, I believe, claimed he's not working on a new Smash. So I expect a Smash Ultimate re-release. Or maybe some upgrades or something. But, it felt a little light. And I'm not going to a Nintendo event to play Hades 2. I'm not going to a Nintendo event to play Cyberpunk. Even though I did, just to check performance. For some people, that's going to be a huge thing. Because now they get the power of like, kind of a Switch, Steam Deck, in a Switch 2, and that's going to open up a whole lot of new avenues for games. But again, at that price, you have more options now. You know, Nintendo is not in the position they were 7-8 years ago. This is not the right music for this conversation. Nintendo 7-8 years ago was in a position where the handheld market was basically just the phone, laptops, you know, pads, and 3DS. And now the Switch has been out for a while. That novelty is kind of a little bit, you know, faded. The Switch One is still going to be around for a while, especially for people that just want to play Balatro or like, you know, Mario Kart 8 or maybe just some indie games. The Switch One is going to be perfectly fine for that. So what is the value proposition in 2025 of Nintendo releasing the Switch 2 console with more power? Sure, better Joy-Con. The mouse is cool. You get Mario Kart, you know, Donkey Kong, sure. But you also have options that are similarly priced, like a Steam Deck or an Asus, or there's a bunch of other ones now where you can play your Steam games on the go portably. To be fair, the Switch 2 is thinner than all of those. I have the Steam Deck and the Asus, and they're pretty, you know, none of them are very particularly portable. Like you need like a bag for all of them. But the Steam Deck and the Asus, those are pretty thick compared to the Switch 2. So I give them that. And you know, the stand is nice, the ergonomics of the thing are better. But truly the market has changed and people have to figure out like, okay, what is going to get me that Switch 2 day one? Now, I would argue that consumers eventually figure this shit out. I don't think this is as big of a gaffe as what happened with the Xbox One, where they were like, you know, we're not going to share games. You can't have games. And then PlayStation just completely just swooped in and took all that market. I don't think it's a big of a gaffe as the Wii U, which made no goddamn sense. And I don't think it's as big of a gaffe as $599 for PlayStation 3. However, when I look at a PS5 and I saw how many people were just trying to get PS5, what game? I don't know. Doesn't matter. They just wanted PS5. And it became this thing that was sold out for so long. Expensive console with, you know, again, people could play these games on PC mostly, but they went out and made PS5 a huge success. I kind of think the same thing is going to happen with the Switch 2. The thing is, it's a Nintendo machine. We know this. These are games that are, I like them. I love these games, you know, generally, and I'm going to get it. But, you know, people are going to have less money. They have their PS5 that they just bought a couple years ago, which that generation's almost over too, for fuck's sake. I don't even know how that is possible, but looks like PS5, we might have another couple years and then just go buy a PS6. But people do just buy things based on the name. People will probably snatch this up. I've basically said I don't think this is going to be a huge of a success as the Switch 1, but I think it'll do well. So, so that's my full analysis of the situation after having played it. It is a good console. The games are good. And I don't know if that's going to be enough. So, we'll see. You know, hopefully people figure it out, and maybe my now number one hope is that Nintendo doesn't increase the prices further, because that's going to be a shit show. If it's already a shit show, if they have to increase the price of the console $50 and the game's another 10, it's over. People are going to lose their goddamn minds. So, yeah, we'll see. We will see. I had a good time. You know, I'm glad I went. As a lifelong Mario Kart fan, I had a great time with it. As a Metroid fan, I couldn't be more thrilled. As a Donkey Kong fan, I was blown away. So, you know, hopefully they keep the releases strong and steady, and it'll give people a reason to buy this thing. And yeah, that'll be that. So thank you for watching and hearing me rant about this. It is my deepest hope that I can really kind of stop talking about this in as much detail as I've been. And that probably won't be the case, but you know, it would be nice. Obviously, as it gets closer to release, we'll have to reassess and talk more about it. But for now, that's how I feel after having played it. Thank you again, and goodbye.